What classic representation of Austrian culture have you played in gaming form, Chris?
Well, something again that just captures the essence of the nation. It's a fully Austrian-developed game by a team called Purple Lamp, but it is a ground-up remake of a previously not Austrian title back from 2003, because I've been playing Spongebob Squarepants Battle for Bikini Bottom REHYDRATED. First up, props to whoever came up with the REHYDRATED moniker for a remake of an entry for this particular franchise. I think that's quite good. It's pretty solid. If nothing else, it shows that the marketing team were properly on board for this one.
Yeah.
Didn't need to put in the work, but someone did. The OG game apparently was pretty fondly remembered. It's a Mario 64 et al. Inspired collectathon 3D platformer starring the cast of Nickelodeon's Spongebob Squarepants. So far, so PS2. But what seems to set this one apart for people at the time is that the game in its original incarnation seemed to have way more love and care poured into it than you'd usually expect from a licensed property. Like almost all of the voice cast return for new lines. The visuals look about as close as you could get to the TV show, bearing in mind we're moving from 2D animation to polygon characters in a 3D world. Overall movement feels really good as well for a platform game. And so fast forward almost 20 years to the game's surprise return by way of Purple Lamp. And although critically the game wasn't really met with the same fanfare of the original release, everything I'd read seemed to suggest that this was still a pretty good time in a genre that basically is pretty much dead for modern platforms. We've praised Astrobot a lot recently for being an excellent stage-based 3D platformer, but SpongeBob represents something a bit different in that it's more kind of like the open-world, objective-based platform action pioneered by someone like Mario 64, expands on in games like Jak and Daxter for the PS2. It is a different kind of split subgenre of that kind of 3D platformer. You wander around a small hub of Bikini Bottom, replete with the landmarks you'd expect to see from the show, and then you travel to separate open stages that, although still having a linear goal that usually ends in a boss battle or something like that, they're filled with distractions and collectibles and stub stages that really helps you push out the walls of what could have been a pretty by-the-numbers run-and-jump affair. There's soft progression lock-in by way of later abilities and movement tech, rewarding revisits to earlier stages. Not quite Metroidvania, but, you're getting things that encourage going back to earlier stages, so soft a little bit maybe. There's character switching as well. That means you can sort of set your own difficulty by way of utilising Patrick's ability to throw objects or Sandy's ability to glide in the air over SpongeBob's more vanilla moveset. And it's all very nice. I actually really enjoyed playing it. Like, little is really changed from the original release as far as I could tell. Not that I played that one. But digging around, I did read that cut content was restored, certain voice lines were re-recorded with the original cast where necessary and possible, textures and models were all rebuilt and tweaked, and the game was obviously pushed to run at higher resolutions, higher frame rates, etc., to really future-proof it for audiences going forward. What made me decide to include this game as my Austrian entry, though, wasn't just Purple Lamp's focus and care in making sure the remake felt good to play for a modern audience while still remaining faithful to the original game, but how they've now become the de facto stewards for this style of SpongeBob game and are taking that forwards as kind of the new sort of keepers of the genre, keepers of the franchise. Although primarily a porting house in kind of their work previously, like they did the PC version of Sea of Thieves, apparently. They did the recent Epic Mickey remake that, again, seems to have reviewed quite well.
Rebrushed.
That, again, pretty good subtitle. But Purple Lamp would also go on to make their own mark on the SpongeBob franchise with Bikini Bottom's pseudo-sequel, The Cosmic Shake, that came out a year or two ago, as well as a yet unnamed third entry in this loose trilogy that's penciled in for 2025, so at some point this year. Licensed games used to be 10 a penny in the 90s and early 2000s, and quality was often very hit and miss, as games would have very short development times, rely on brand recognition primarily to cut through at retail. But as retail has moved from physical to digital and development costs have spiraled, licensed games are actually on the serious wane, with mobile apps and Fortnite-style crossover events now far more common and probably more prominent than the shelf deluge of the PS2 era. It's just a different world, I guess. Purple Lamp, though, seems to be a developer that's been really keen to push a license they obviously have a lot of love for to be the best it can be within a more modern games landscape. There are a lot of pretty subpar uses of the SpongeBob name in games. You've got the very lazy Mario Kart and Smash Bros. Aping Nickelodeon Kart Racers, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl games. They kind of pop to mind. But from what I've played of Battle for Bikini Bottom, REHYDRATED, and what I've read of Cosmic Shake, these games are not shit. They're really decent. And they're not pandering to a young audience. They're not skimping on the aesthetics or writing that's made the show and its movie such an enduring franchise. They're respectful, I guess, AA products. And I feel that tier of games absolutely has a place alongside indies, alongside AAA, and everything in between when done properly. So this is kind of just like a way of highlighting a sort of a genre that we would rarely bring up on a show like this, unless I'm playing an old like Game Boy Advance tie-in for some reason. But it's the type of stuff that existed a lot, doesn't so much anymore, but clearly is out there with certain people doing as much justice as they can to a license to make some quite cool and fun stuff. So it's the type of thing, it was in my Steam library already from a humble bundle at some point. I didn't pay full price for Spongebob Squarepants, but I have had a really good time playing it, and I will probably play some more of it.